How's it going, everybody? Welcome in to another episode of the Mavs Step Back Podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Trigg. Today, I have a very special guest joining the show for the very first time. It's Grant Williams, the new, I like to call him the new Swiss Army knife for the Dallas Mavericks. Can do a little bit of everything. He came over this offseason in a sign and trade with the Boston Celtics, and he is getting ready to start his first season with the Mavs. Grant, how's it going, man?
Everything's going great, actually. Practice had a great day today. We have our next preseason game tomorrow against Detroit, and then we get right rolling into the season. So it's going to be an exciting time here in the next week.
It's crazy. You know, the offseason, the NBA, and I talk about this with my co-host all the time, the NBA has gotten to where it is year-round. There are no breaks. There's always something going on, and now we're getting ready for this new season to get rolling next week. When you're opening up against the San Antonio Spurs, we'll get into that here in a little bit, but just overall, I mean, how has it been for you, getting acclimated to Dallas and, moving from Boston and all that? How have you kind of gotten your roots settled so far?
Let's just say the move is still in process. I don't have my bed yet, so we're working on that. But downstairs furniture isn't shipped, but upstairs furniture is pretty much furnished. So feeling pretty good about that. In terms of Dallas, I'm loving the city. I found a lot of great food spots already. And I'm fortunate to be able to say that I was in downtown and in South Dallas for a little while. So now I'm finally in my home up in North Dallas. So it's pretty cool to be able to say I've seen a couple parts of Dallas and experienced it. And I'm thankful. Team organization's been amazing, top to bottom, and then within the players, we've had opportunity to get to know each other on a deeper level. So it's really cool.
I have to ask you, do you have a favorite food spot?
So far, I've loved Uchi and Luke and Sam's, but those are both like the date spots. So I'm looking for the hole in the walls right now. That's for me is the next step, is finding out the restaurants that no one really like knows about and stuff and goes to, and this is great food. That's me.
If you want, and I mean, this is just my opinion, but if you want a kind of a hole in the wall recommendation, I highly suggest Maple and Motor.
Maple and Motor.
They have some really good stuff, but it's good to know that you're getting acclimated real well, and it sounds, aside from some injury issues or concerns, that things are going pretty well for the team overall heading into next week. How concerned are you personally with like the stuff? Luka has the calf strain, and Kyrie hasn't played the last two preseason games, or is that just do you think it's just more cautionary stuff, or how concerned are you with all of that?
I'm not really concerned. I know that these guys on this team want to play. They want to play basketball, and they're going to find a way to get on the court no matter what happens. So I'm super excited just because we're preparing for a long haul of a year. And it's sometimes you go through some nicks and bangs when you're preparing, because when you're on the best teams, I feel like you practice hard and you practice fast, and you may run into a risk of, every now and again, a little twisted ankle, or you bumped your arm or leg or knee bumps, stuff like that. And, a week later, you're going to be good. So for me, we really enjoy the competitive style of practice that we've had. We've pushed each other, and we believe that iron sharpens iron here. So we're not really concerned about the little nicks that we have. It's like, I feel like they're more cautionary than anything else, but those guys have to understand their bodies. So at the same time, even if it's cautionary, even if they want to go out there and play, we have to be mindful that we do have an 82 game year. So at least.
Well, look, before we get into the actual basketball part of things, the trade this offseason, when it happened, was there ever a point before any of that happened, like last year, that you thought like, okay, well, I could probably see myself eventually ending up in Dallas? Or was it something just kind of spur of the moment this offseason? Because I know, you share an agent with Luka. You made waves among Mavs fans last year when you were wearing Luka's shoes, in the game against the Mavs. So, all of that kind of got people thinking, oh, well, maybe Grant Williams can eventually be a part of this team. And sure enough, it happened this offseason. So when did that, kind of enter your mind as a possibility of something that could happen?
Yeah, I went through extension talks with Boston that past, I guess, 2 summers ago. And they didn't turn out the way that we wanted. So at that point, you still are hopeful that Boston's going to be an option, but you also have to understand the options that are available up the coming year. So I know there was a couple like San Antonio, Dallas, like there was a bunch of teams that, were on the network, but it wasn't intentional. It was one of those things. I wore Luka shoes because I was fearful that if I wore JT shoes that I might do something. I was more concerned with the fact that just finding the best shoe that we could play in. And I guess, me and Luka's body type, let's just say, are pretty similar in a sense back then. And stop and go was more what I needed than vertical athleticism. So I ended up wearing Luka's shoes, and I wore them the entire season. And then this summer came, and all those potential options are available. You have to discern where you could potentially fit the best and also be wanted the most. And Dallas was that answer.
Well, and when we first got started, I meant to ask you this too, but you're getting ready for the start of a long, grueling 82-game season, and you're coming off a 12-day preseason trip that was overseas. You spent some time in Abu Dhabi, then went over to Madrid and got back. One, have you kind of gotten over the jet lag stuff? And two, how rewarding was that trip for you? I mean, what did you kind of find out about you and your team during that trip?
Yeah, I think that the jet lag and stuff is gone. I feel like now I'm still a little tired and fatigued, but back to the normal sleep schedule. So now once you're on the normal sleep schedule, you can get that routine back and get your energy back up. And then in terms of the actual trip, I thought it was crucial. We may have experienced a little, we didn't have the outcomes that we wanted, but we were able to not only get to know one another as people because we spent so much time with one another off the floor, but we also got to know each other in a foreign environment where we all kind of concerned, trying to figure out what's going on, what to do, who to be like. You get comfortable with one another. And then on the court, we were able to see exactly where our weaknesses are, our strengths are, and where we need to improve. So we've been able to address those in practice. When you have the preseason games here in the States, you can assume that, if we get a win against a team, you're just like, okay, we feel like we're pretty good. And then, but if you go over and you are dealing with these variables of travel, sleep deprived, guys are dealing with injury. We lose Kai in the middle of the trip in terms of like he's not playing the next game, and so like you have to be ready to move and motion it, and through times where you may not have any knowledge of what's going on around you. So I think that it prepared us for a season. That gave us a quick little season in a matter of 2 weeks. So now now we just got to bounce back and come in against Detroit, compete, and then start the season off the right way.
Yeah, and I mean, on paper, even before preseason started, it seemed like you would be a pretty good fit with this team. It seems like you mesh well with the other pieces, but we haven't really been able to see the full potential of that because of how all these injuries are, being cautious with guys playing in preseason. We haven't seen the full extent of that yet. So, I mean, how do you see yourself fitting in alongside Luka and Kyrie and the rest of the guys? And, I mean, what specifically about your game is going to elevate this team this year?
Yeah, the physicality, the toughness, the defensive mindset, as well as the three-point shooting. And then the in-between. I've prepared to play the game of basketball my entire life, and I think it's time for a way of just kind of expanding and growing. That's something that I'll have to do for this team to help us compete and help us win. And that's what they're asking me to do, and trying to get me to shift my mindset from being that spot-up shooter to being a more aggressive player. So it's pretty cool to be able to expand your role and also be mindful that you are going to have to do it all. Like you're going to have to hold yourself to a standard for an entire season. And it's really exciting for me. I'm not saying it's going to be peaches and roses all across the entire season, but I do think that there's a potential here for this team to continue to grow with one another and challenge one another to be great. And Kai and Luka are going to lead us along the way, but we got to have that support for them, and don't ask them to do every single thing for us. Hopefully Luka is going to go for 60 on his own sometimes, but hopefully we don't need that every night. Hopefully we can do our jobs and really give him a chance of winning without him having to even have a great night of basketball.
Okay, so going into this season, there's a lot of places that a team can improve from year to year, but the main two for the Mavs, obviously overall defense and rebounding. Last season, 25th in overall defense, dead last in rebounding. Not just with the addition of you, but other guys, Derek Lively, across the board, there's been a huge influx of new talent this year. I mean, how do you see the team improving in those two areas specifically? Like, is there more of an emphasis on that every single day? Are there any scheme changes, or what are you guys doing to kind of address those issues?
It's a collective effort. That's something that I learned from my time in Boston, is that you don't necessarily have to be the smallest, like tallest, longest, or most athletic team to be a good rebounding team. You just have to be able to be physical enough to prevent others from getting the rebound, but also come back and team rebound. You have to have each other's back. So if a guy is battling a guy like Rudy Gobert, Clint Capella, you shouldn't expect them to be able to get the rebound and box them out and do it all. Like, come over the top and help them out. And that's something that we have improved on, and we have to continue to improve on. And then our pace of play and our hustle has to improve as well. We had last year, you had guys like Josh Green always flying in and rebound, and Dwight. But now you have a team of guys who understand their roles, and understanding that, yes, if a shot goes up, we can put pressure as much on the rim and get an extra possession as we can to protect our own. So that's the two. And then defensively, we have a lot of versatile guys on this team. We'll have opportunity to play a lot of different coverages, a lot of different schemes, and a lot of different lineups. So it'll just depend on who we're playing that night, and we'll have to adjust from there.
Aside from Luka, aside from Kyrie and yourself, who would you say has been the most impressive in your eyes since training camp has started?
Ooh, you gave the three. Well, my name probably I won't even give myself that credit yet. But, the most impressive, it depends on what you're looking at, because there's different categories I would say you throw it in. Like, there's guys that surprise you a little bit, like their potential, like the Omaxes, the D Lively's of the world. But then there's guys that have really improved, like Derek Jones. I've never played on a team with him, but his ability to defend while also now he's making the knocking down that open shot is huge, because he can add value to a team very much so. Seth, he makes tough shots, and Tim is the spark plug, that second unit that's going to really determine how successful we are. He's going to be really the biggest leader for us, and his voice has been very, very vocal for the entire team, which we need. And top to bottom, I feel like we have a bunch of guys who will contribute. We have a Dante Exum who I haven't seen play, because I haven't watched EuroLeague basketball much, but now I'm watching it now. But last year I didn't. And let's just say Dante has been really, really good for us, and he's shown how he can really help us later on in the year. So I'm excited for the team.
Now, going into next week, you're playing the Spurs. It's at their place, opening night. I'm sure you have seen, some of the clips in the last 24 hours of what Victor Wembanyama is capable of, just a complete freak of nature. And, I don't know, he might be playing center. He might be playing a little bit of power forward with Zach Collins in that lineup, with him. So there's a chance, and there's a pretty good chance that you and Lively or whoever ends up starting at center is going to be spending a lot of time on him, or at least some time on him. How do you game plan against a guy that can do as much as, what Wembanyama has shown he can do? Or is there anything you can do?
Yeah, I feel like you just have to be physical. You have to make sure you can't, get to the spots that he wants to get to. You have to make it difficult for him. Like any star player, you're going to have to outwork them. They're going to get the shots. They're going to get the opportunity. So even if they have 20 points, so you can't be mad at it, but you have to look up and see if they're 10 for 11 or if they're, 10 for 18. That's a huge difference in this league. And also just understanding it's not going to be one person that does it. Like, we shouldn't expect Lively to be isolated and guarding them just by himself. We shouldn't expect Maxey, myself, or anybody to. The best teams are the ones who help one another. So, but we can't just credit Victor for the Spurs' success either. They're healthy. They're healthy now, and Devin Vassell's been playing very, very well. I've seen Keldon Johnson. It's going to be a huge add to them. Jeremy Sohan, as his confidence continues to grow and he knocks down shots, he'll hopefully continue to add to that starting power forward position. And then they have a good guard in Trey Jones and the guys off the bench with the vets like Doug McDermott, Zach Collins, and stuff like that. So they're a talented team, but we have to be mindful that, we have to play with pace, we have to play with physicality, and we can't allow him to get to the spots that he wants to, because like you say, he's going to be bringing the ball up, but he's also going to be back to the basket. So understanding that if he does bring the ball up, don't allow him to just bring it up comfortably. At 7'3", how many guys are picking you up full court? Like, that's got to be our movie.
Well, two more things here, and I'll let you go. I always ask, or at least I try to ask everybody we have on this pod, but what's something that Mavs fans need to know about Grant Williams that's not basketball related? Like, what is something that, an interesting fact about you that Mavs fans need to know?
If you have recommendations for musicals, let me know. I love musicals. I love going to see Broadway shows. I love going to see opportunity like that. So if there's something like that here in Dallas, connect with me, and I'd love to join you guys every now and again. And same with comedy clubs. I want to go see if there's some good ones here in Dallas. Those are the two things. I'm starting to get into comedy, and I'm not a stand-up comedian by any means, but I really thoroughly enjoy it.
See, I would have never thought that about the musical stuff. That's great to know. I love learning stuff like that. So my other thing, and this is not a serious topic at all, but is headband Luka a thing? Is that something that's going to happen going into next year, or is he just giving the fans something to talk about?
Who knows? We might have a headband game for the entire team one day. We might be able to make it happen.
Well, Grant, look, I appreciate you taking some time to talk with me. I know you have a really busy schedule, and you got a lot of things coming up here with the season starting, last preseason game this week. So I really appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Anytime. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, sir. We'll see you.